Welcome back. This is the time that most of us are waiting for here and around the newsroom. We hope you at home too appreciate James Creedon, who's here to join us now for Media Watch. James, as ever, I hope you're plugged in. I hope you're ready to go.
Yes, ready to go,
Let me
Mark.
just tell the people at home a little bit about what you're going to talk about tonight. We're starting with François Hollande, and what is a very important story in many ways between the people of France and the people of Algeria. It dates back to a massacre which was disputed by both sides back in 1961. François Hollande has now acknowledged that massacre, and of course it comes at a time when we're looking here at the channel as well about the 50th anniversary of Algeria's independence, and of course a very delicate and difficult time that many people live through here in France.
That's right, Mark. And so it was a press release of François Hollande released, obviously enough, this afternoon, with a very strongly worded acknowledgement of what happened 51 years ago, which is the massacre of between 300 and 700, the figures are disputed, people in Paris, in the streets of Paris during a demonstration.
James, that the police at the time said it was 2 or 3 people were killed, didn't they? I mean, there was this big discrepancy between the two figures.
They got their math wrong, as they say. They certainly did. Let's take a look at some of the comment online today. This is the Hurriyet Daily News in Turkey. So it's gone around the world, this news. French president recognises that 1961 massacre. L'Express. Now, this goes back a year ago, Mark, to the 50th anniversary of that incident. The state is not yet ready to apologise for the 17th of October 1961. Nicolas Sarkozy was still president. There were appeals for an official apology to come. It didn't happen. Now, this is Mediapart, a left-wing news website here in France. There was an appeal for that to be corrected. Who signed that appeal? It was a petition. Sometime last year, François Hollande did. You can see his name there highlighted in that text. In other words, he did say before he was even elected that this was going to happen. Les mots sont importants. Words are important. That's the reaction of an Algerian person, or Algerian French indeed, to the declaration today. In other words, that acknowledgement means a lot to people. A communiqué or a press release which will go down in history. Thank you, President. Now, some people saying, this is a press release. Why wasn't it a speech in an important historical place? For example, along the banks of the Seine, where there were bodies floating in the river 51 years ago today. And this person saying here, well, not bad, but I would have preferred a speech on one of the bridges in Paris, but still, it's something, This is Pierre Haski, a well-known journalist in Paris, with the word enfin, at last. At last, this in declaration has come. And this guy, out of the dark ages, saying, lamentable. He's rewriting history. Algeria was a French département until 1962. This is rubbish. This repentance is rubbish. So this guy obviously preferring to remain in a slightly more, what would you say, unfaithful version of history as regards
jingoistic, hatred of foreigners. All those phrases are coming to mind reading those words. I'm sorry if I'm getting you wrong, sir. Because you're no doubt the man who's saying this. What shocks me about this period of history, which I think very few people outside of France and outside of the Arab world know about, certainly you don't hear about it in the UK,
right,
is the figures and the numbers of people who were killed in massacres in Algeria,
right,
whole villages. I mean, the things that you hear about in Syria today, the numbers, kind of insignificant compared to what happened then.
Right.
And they're the figures that aren't disputed.
Right.
This one that actually happened in Paris is, if you can imagine, people being turfed into the river, dead, is absolutely appalling.
It seems to have been just military tactics at the time, almost like open warfare.
Because the Algerians were under curfew at the time.
That's
they were
right.
living in abject poverty on the outskirts of Paris, where they were all herded. And they weren't allowed to be out after a certain time at night. And if they were, arrested and off to the internment camp at Vincennes in the southeast of the city.
All the more reason why an acknowledgement of what happened is important in terms of relations between the different communities, etc.
Okay, let's move on, James. Tell us where you're going next.
All right, well, this is, I suppose, the buzz du jour online after the presidential debate last night. Mitt Romney used an expression, let's take a listen. This is in reference to employing women in the workplace, his workplace.
We took a concerted effort to go out and find women who had backgrounds that could be qualified to become members of our cabinet. I went to a number of women's groups and said, can you help us find folks? And they brought us whole binders full of women.
James.
Now, binders full of women. It became a Tumblr blog within moments of his saying it. I'll show you some of the reaction online, or some of the ways in which this has been taken off. Women. So the whole thing is he was trying to say he was going to employ women. It was all about equality, etc. You have this as well. That's his binder full of, well, sort of old-fashioned women. It's so dark and scary in this binder. So as you can see, very quickly he was criticised for what was seen as a pretty feeble attempt to demonstrate his his attempts in the past to work for equal employment opportunities, etc. Now, in the press, you've got this in the New Yorker by Amy Davidson. One got the sense of a Mitt Romney coming from a place where women were generally in the other room, waiting to be invited in only when the moment or the visibility of the job called for it. In other words, he's paying lip service to equality. Also in The Guardian, they were critical of this, saying that he confirms every feminist's worst fears for a Romney presidency, that he views women's rights in the workplace as much business administration to be punched and filed and popped on a shelf.
Did anybody
support
Anybody support what he said? Anybody have a good word to say about this?
I suppose there were a few of his supporters who
his supporters have tried to defend it, haven't they, saying that he was strong in other parts of the debate, but they didn't particularly comment on that phrase, which I think he got wrong for every aspect of society.
That appealed to the Obama supporters.
Which maybe says he's out of touch, dare I say.
That's, I think, how a lot of people saw it, Mark.
Okay. James.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much indeed. Without him, we couldn't do it. James Creedon with Media Watch.